Good morning, everybody. Welcome to Concept. Today we begin one of the most dramatic and influential chapters in modern history: socialism in Europe and the Russian Revolution. This chapter takes us beyond the French Revolution into a world where new political ideas, liberalism, socialism, and conservatism shaped Europe. We'll also explore how the Russian Revolution of 1917 brought those ideas to life, changing the fate of an empire and inspiring movements across the world. Let's step back into early 20th century Europe, a world filled with kings, revolutionaries, workers, and dreamers of equality. Here's how we'll journey through the chapter. We'll begin with Europe after the French Revolution, where new political ideologies were taking root. Then we'll see how industrialization changed society, creating a new working class and new conflicts. We'll meet socialist thinkers who imagined a fairer, more equal world. Then we'll move to Russia, its empire, czars, and people, and understand how the revolutions of 1905 and 1917 transformed it into the first socialist state. Finally, we'll discuss how these changes affected the rest of the world. After Napoleon's defeat in 1815, European monarchs tried to restore the old order. Kings and nobles wanted to return to the time before the French Revolution, a time when they held absolute power, but that was not easy. The revolution had already planted new ideas in people's minds, ideas of liberty, equality, and fraternity. Out of this conflict arose new political groups: liberals, who wanted freedom and rights for individuals; conservatives, who wanted slow change while keeping traditions; and socialists, who demanded equality and shared ownership. Europe was becoming a battlefield of ideas. During the 19th century, Europe was transforming through industrialization. Factories came up, cities expanded, and machines replaced hand labor. A new class of industrial workers was born, people who worked long hours for low wages under poor conditions. The rich industrialists and property owners became even wealthier, while workers and peasants struggled to survive. As these inequalities grew, people began to question whether freedom meant anything without economic equality. Trade unions, cooperatives, and workers' associations began to demand rights, fair wages, and social justice. Now, what exactly was socialism? Socialists believed that private ownership of industries created inequality. Instead, they wanted resources and production to be owned collectively by society or the state. Karl Marx and Friedrich Engels, two great thinkers, gave socialism a scientific shape. They said that all history was a struggle between classes, the rich and the poor. According to Marx, workers should unite, overthrow capitalism, and build a classless society based on equality. These were radical ideas that deeply inspired the coming revolutions. Let's move to Russia, the stage of the revolution. Before 1917, Russia was ruled by Tsar Nicholas II, an absolute monarch who believed in divine right. His empire stretched across Europe and Asia, a massive land with many nationalities, languages, and religions. Most Russians were peasants living in extreme poverty. They worked on land owned by nobles and the church. In cities, industrial workers toiled under brutal conditions. While Europe was modernizing, Russia remained stuck in an old oppressive system, setting the stage for unrest. In 1905, people's anger finally exploded. In January, peaceful protesters led by Father Gapon marched to the Winter Palace in St. Petersburg to demand better wages and reforms. Instead of listening, the Tsar's soldiers opened fire, killing hundreds. This day became known as Bloody Sunday. After widespread strikes and revolts, the Tsar reluctantly agreed to form a parliament, called the Duma, but soon he dismissed it and continued to rule as before. The people's hopes were crushed, but the desire for change had grown stronger. Then came 1917, the year that changed everything. World War I had brought misery to Russia. Millions of soldiers died. Food and fuel were scarce, and prices soared. Women and workers led strikes in Petrograd, demanding bread and peace. Soldiers joined the protesters, refusing to fire on them. The Tsar had lost all support. In March 1917, he was forced to abdicate. The monarchy ended after centuries, and a provisional government was formed. But the revolution was not yet over. Later that same year, a second revolution took place. Vladimir Lenin, leader of the Bolshevik Party, believed that the provisional government only served the interests of the rich. He promised peace, land, and bread to the war-weary, hungry masses. In October 1917, the Bolsheviks organized an armed uprising and captured power in Petrograd. The world's first socialist government was born. Factories, banks, and land were nationalized. For the first time, workers and peasants were told that power belonged to them. After the revolution, Russia was plunged into a brutal civil war. The Red Army, loyal to the Bolsheviks, fought the White Army, made up of monarchists, landlords, and foreign powers. After years of bloody fighting, the Reds emerged victorious under Lenin's leadership. In 1922, the Union of Soviet Socialist Republics, the USSR, was officially formed. The Communist Party now ruled, promising equality and development. The dream of socialism had become reality, but not without sacrifice. The Russian Revolution had a global impact. It inspired workers and peasants across Europe, Asia, and Africa to fight for their rights. Colonial subjects saw hope in socialism as an alternative to imperial rule. Countries began experimenting with planned economies and state ownership. Even though not all succeeded, the revolution proved that social change was possible. It gave a voice to those who had long been silent: the workers, the peasants, the ordinary people. Before we close, let's quickly go over some key terms. Tsar, the Emperor of Russia; Duma, the Russian parliament; Bolsheviks, Lenin's revolutionary group that led the 1917 revolution; Mensheviks, a moderate socialist group that favored gradual reform; Soviets, councils of workers and soldiers that represented local power; and communism, A system where all means of production are owned collectively, aiming for a classless society. Society. Thanks for watching this video. I hope you enjoyed our journey. Don't forget to like and subscribe our channel for more videos.